back. I feel like we just did this a few days ago, and I think you're pretty spot on the collaboration piece.
We've had what, less than a week since our last chat, and I think it will probably only take a week until our next chat as well. So, with the marketing OS top of mind, first of all, we're bringing in Infinite Canvas as part of this. What does Infinite Canvas mean for Pencil as a tool?
So I think it means a few things. A few things. So one is, as you mentioned, collaboration, but it kind of comes as an addition to some of the other things. So in Pencil today, when you create your work and you organize it, we have almost like a table view. So a more of an organizational view where you can go and it's almost behaves um, like a data table that you then can filter and create different views on. But at times, you might want something a little more visual. You might want to compare different types of work side by side. You might want to have different types of work that all pertains to one campaign in one single view. And that is really where Infinite Canvas or Canvas comes into play. It is functioning more as a design system where you can drop everything into one canvas that is infinite in the sense that you can just drop whatever you want onto it, whether it's assets or work that you have created, thoughts and ideas, text, you name it, essentially. Drop it into
Yeah.
one singular view and visualize it all side by side. Work on it simultaneously with other people on your team so you can simultaneously review it, add to it, leave comments, and all of that good stuff. So that's the collaboration piece. And then it actually works also as an organizational tool,
Hmm.
very similar to folders. So we probably get to it later, but inside of Canvas, you will be able to nest other canvases. So you can start to see that this evolves into somewhat of a folder structure within Pencil where you have the
Hmm.
opportunity to really organize the work that you're creating in a very visual way.
Perfect. I was going to ask actually, what are some of the things that you can include within a canvas? Obviously, we've got those work elements that you've mentioned, but how does this tie more into whole creative processes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think in many cases, even though you wish it would be, it's not. Where a creative process is like an iterative process in the sense that you kind of go through different phases of insights that then might lead to an idea leads into concepts, concepts leads into different types of versions turns into like the final, and then you kind of blow it out and all of this. So you can see the entire creative process is not very straightforward and goes through different processes. Um, Using Canvas in this way, you could essentially capture all of that in one place and organize your work from the point that you actually have insights and idea about a campaign or a project that you want to work on throughout that creative process as something comes to life, all the way into the final production where you essentially blow out a concept across different channels with different formats and aspects and whatnot, and then kind of group that in
Yeah,
so you can bring it out of Pencil and kind of push it into the market. Um,
amazing.
so I was
So,
going to say the part of that is essentially the collaboration piece that I think is the cool factor of being able to work together during
yeah.
that and kind of see a project evolve over time.
So it's kind of breaking down those silos where previously you might have had one person working in a strategy agent, another person working in a copy agent, another person generating images. It all comes together to an output, but there's not necessarily that trail. There's not that process in one single identifiable package.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of makes work a little more transparent too. As you know, like it's so important to actually have very close collaboration throughout the process and me to have visibility and insight into what you're doing and vice versa. And with this, you essentially have that full transparency throughout that process of being able to see what is being done, how we got there, why we got there, and be able to provide that feedback throughout the process. and you still have all of the tools inside of Pencil accessible in the Canvas. So you can kind of work as your central hub for a project where you still can access chat and start chatting with a particular agent, start follow up and refining concepts. You have access to the editors where you can go and take the work, quickly go into the editor, refine it, tweak it, whatever you want, go back into the canvas, organize it, leave comments, and provide a new review process that is also coming very soon, where you will be able to take care of the revisions and review inside of Pencil as well to create more of a seamless experience when you work together as a team.
Perfect. So there's just far less chance of pieces being missed. I guess the
Definitely.
implication for teams is going to be really considering the way that they work and how they design their entire structure of work and collaboration. Do we have any sense of what that's going to look like for a typical marketing team?
I would say yes and no, in the sense that everyone tends to kind of work in a unique way. When I meet with different customers and their teams, there's always something that I take away from each conversation of just, that's really interesting that they do it in that way, but it makes so much sense in the broader scheme of things. So I would say it's kind of up to yourself in the sense of how you structure it. I will say, kind of to our earlier point there, of how you organize your files can help a lot in terms of going through the process from the entire project. And with the functionality of being able to nest canvases within one another, you can kind of view that as, that's an opportunity for you to kind of go and say, here's version 1 of this concept that we're trying to put together. Okay, this is the direction we want to work in. Now you can take all of those that you basically say is, this is the direction we're going in. Let's refine this, plot that on a new sub canvas and kind of follow the trace in there. So you can almost use it as a folder structure of saying, here's version 1, version 2, version 3, and then final concept. And you have your deliverables inside of the final folder or canvas, if you call it that.
So there's going to be maybe an adaptation to the way that people plan within this, but the kind of fruits of their labor will be so much better than what we've had before.
Yeah, I like to think of it almost like it is folders, but on steroids, in the sense that it goes beyond just the organizational factor, which I think is a really nice thing to bring into Pencil. But having access to all of the tools, again, collaboration, and be able to see what people do in real time, and then having the ability to actually leave live comments on specific work items in more detail than you can today, will just bring another level of depth and kind of accuracy in the work that you're doing.
Perfect. I mean, I'm very excited to hear more talk about versioning as well. I'm always guilty of final version, final version, final version. So anything that can help teams get around that, I think, is going to be really, really well received by our users. I'm particularly interested in the way, and I think this is probably because I come from an education enablement background, in the way that this can make creative processes more visible rather than just the end assets. And I think that nesting could be really, really powerful for our users to not only iterate on outputs, but iterate on how they fine tune their processes. Are there going to be ways that users are going to be able to very easily refer back to a given canvas?
I would say yes, in the sense that this probably comes back a little bit to your previous question of a tip would be, to have a clear naming structure, which obviously will make it much easier to find things. With comments, you will leave a comment, and if you open a comment that you have been notified about, you will be taken directly to that canvas. So it shouldn't be hard to find what you're looking for if you kind of have a clear naming structure that you know how to navigate, and 2, if there is something that you really need to have eyes on that someone has tagged you in, you will be able to quickly find it. So I would say those are the 2 main things that will help just keeping you organized and actually find what you're looking for quickly. Other than that, I think many users will probably find their own tips and tricks of how to use it. So it's almost like an internal process that needs to be built out around it.
Perfect. And you've given me the perfect segue into just saying to any users who are watching, as and when you're finding those tips and tricks, please do share them on our community platform. We really love to learn from the way that our users are carrying out their activities in the platform. This isn't just a top-down process from platform to user. With that in mind, are there particular things that have come from client feedback that have directly fed in to development of Infinite Canvas?
Yes, there are a few things actually, folders being one. I think we've heard this a few times of, I wish there was a different way to organize my files in addition to what you can do on Pencil today. So having canvases essentially double as folders will be really powerful, I think. In addition to that, it's commenting and reviews. Currently on Pencil, I think that some customers feels a little bit restricted in terms of how they actually can handle that review process on Pencil. So we've taken a lot of feedback into that and are really, I would say, building out the functionality of being able to handle reviews, revisions, and then kind of final approval inside of Pencil in a very seamless way. Another thing is comparison, and this idea of essentially having work of different items together. So comparison could be of the same type of work, right? You might have two visual concepts that you have created and you want to put them side by side and just look at them at the same time and see which one works better. Or you might actually want to pair it with some copy that you have created, whether that is a blog post or you actually have some social content, and you want to see how does everything fit together so that it makes sense. Oftentimes, you don't work on something in a silo again. It's very much, copy plays off creative or creative plays off of copy, and having that really go together makes a huge impact in how a message is received. So
I think that comparison. I think that comparison is going to be absolutely huge. I mean, as anyone at Pencil knows, I'm the biggest fan of feeds, and part of that is for the ability to generate multiple options really, really easily and then look at them side by side. But in the confines of a spreadsheet, you're limited in the way that you look at those things side by side, and there's still a certain amount of flicking backwards and forwards. So are we saying with Infinite Canvas you could kind of process full alternative outputs and have a direct side by side view of them?
Yeah, you will be able to basically just put everything in one view, and the beauty of it too is you can zoom in really closely into a specific item. So sometimes, it's a matter of a pixel being off, right? But it matters a lot in terms of just the appearance of something being aesthetically kind of pleasing. So being able to zoom in very closely and just making sure, is this actually exactly the way we want it? And if not, being able to just point that out. And oftentimes when you are able to compare things side by side, some of those things becomes more obvious. So I think that is where the beauty of being able to compare really comes in. And to your point, if I explore different directions of something, of an idea, sometimes it's actually difficult to even know what your opinion is until you have seen something different. So that is also really powerful in terms of just exploring new ideas and concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in terms of the ways that humans can stay in control of decision making, we have a lot of movement in the AI world towards automation. I think at Pencil we're all fully on board though with the idea that humans should always be in the loop. So how does Infinite Canvas support with that?
So I think Infinite Canvas extends into, and I think I did this last time, where I start sneaking out new things that are coming. So I'm just going to follow that trend and say there is a new preview experience, and the preview is really a review experience as well, and that plays off of Canvas. And together the two, along with certain rules that you can set on your workspace, you'll be able to control whether or not something even should leave the platform before it has an approval. So you can take it anywhere from, we have scores, right? And you can customize your own scores that essentially does some form of scoring based on what you have created, assign the score, and then you can have rules of essentially saying, if this is not at least 90% compliant, or like have a score over 90 due to the kind of parameters that we have set, you shouldn't be able to export this off the platform, which then kind of forces teams to ensure that it adheres to whatever rules and guidance you have set. Similarly, if you want an approval process where you say, I have created something, but not until you have reviewed it and kind of put your stamp of approval on that asset or creative, then should I be able to export it. So we're implementing that as well to really give you the full control, where you can create something really quickly. You have full ability to essentially review that, provide provisions. You still can leverage AI to kind of scale scoring or essentially evaluation of what you have created, and then really focus on the areas that really matter. So if you score 10 items and 2 of them scores really high and the rest of them are very low, you kind of know where to focus your attention immediately. And that is where I think you really become effective, in where the human comes in and essentially say, these are the areas I should focus on. I know how to prioritize my time.
Perfect. Now, there's only a couple more things I want to cover. The first, though, I always do this, is we have some brilliant enablement teams at Pencil who are going to be ready and raring to help with hints and tips and advice, help and support content, and anything that we can do to make the transition into Infinite Canvas as seamless as possible for our users. It would be really interesting, though, to hear your thoughts, Doug, on maybe like the top 3 things that teams can do to really harness Infinite Canvas as quickly as possible in their workflows.
Let me think about this really quickly. The things I would recommend would be, one, kind of use a mental model of essentially leveraging Canvas as folders, because I do think that could help a lot with how you organize everything. Ensure that you also have good naming to ensure that it's very easy to find the work that is associated with the project. So that's one. 2 is, I would say, take full advantage of having the ability to get everything on to one singular view of essentially, this should help you in your review process or your concepting phase of essentially bringing ideas to life faster and moving them through that creative process that ultimately would get you to a final concept, hopefully, that you then can go into full production mode on. So leveraging canvases to push ideas through faster would be number 2. And number 3 is the collaboration. I think the collaborative aspect of this is something that I'm really excited to bring into Pencil, where you have more of a team experience, where you truly break down the silos between different departments or even different specific roles that you might be responsible for inside of this creative process, where you can go from the strategic side and the insight and analytics all the way through the actual creative process, and making sure that everyone is in the loop and that everything is aligned along that process is super powerful. So those would be the 3: collaboration, essentially some form of organization with good naming structure, and then the ability to essentially take ideas through really quickly through this layout.
That was a very, very thorough answer for a question that I will admit was a complete curveball. So well done. I think that unless there are any final last words from Doug, that's everything that we can tell you about Infinite Canvas for now. It is a very exciting part of the developments that are coming in platform. As I said at the start of this is just one part of this move towards being the marketing OS. Doug, do you have any final words? Just a kind of 1-sentence summary of what you want people to know about Infinite Canvas.
I think if there's one thing to take away is that collaboration will really come into pencil. That is, I can't stress that enough. I think it's a really powerful concept that has been lacking in some ways, in my opinion, that we now, I think, are making really good progress on. The other is with these new changes, and I want to echo your point, is the community is really a rich resource to actually talk to peers and others, finding tips and tricks to how to actually utilize these new features in the best way. And it's also a way to actually get direct access to everyone at Pencil, because we're all on the community page, we're keeping eyes on it, and we want to make sure that when you come in there with questions, there is an answer for you so you can get the most out of the platform. So I really encourage everyone to take advantage of that, because I think that is going to be a really good resource.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug. That was 2 sentences, but I'm never, ever going to criticize someone giving a plug to the community. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm going to say the same as I said last week. The best way to start getting to grips with new features in Pencil is just to get in there, try them out, ask us any questions that you have as you go. But we're really excited to hear everyone's feedback about these features as they come. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Doug. And we'll see you next time we do a new features chat.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.